Did it include the part when I hosted an event at South by Southwest and Hacksaw Jim Duggan was there and he was still burying Doink even though he was actually dead? And I was like, Hacksaw, he's gone now. You don't have to continue.
No.
This was a fight. Remember, I did the commentary for their when they actually got into it in PWS in like 2008 and they started fist fighting. I was on commentary, and apparently, old Hacksaw, he wasn't over it yet.
Yeah, beef is eternal. It doesn't stop.
Yeah, exactly. The beef continues on. I don't know what part of the world this man is in right now, but I will tell you where I am right now, and that is in my childhood bedroom in the great state of Maryland. The birth state, I believe, of our guest at this time, even though he's from a totally different part of Maryland that I may have never even set foot in, called Hagerstown. LA Knight is joining Cheap Heat. What's up, dude? How are you?
Oh, man, I'm here. That's all I can tell you at this point. It's been a hell of a morning already. But here we are.
Well, you've had a hell of a week, right? You're getting thrown. I feel like I randomly hit up Greg and was like, hey, can we get LA on the show? And I feel like then I looked around and coincidentally, I'm not the only person who is seeking your time this week. It seems as if everyone's trying to get a piece of LA Knight.
This week, last week, next week, probably a bunch of weeks going forward. Who knows at this point? But apparently a lot of people want to talk to me now.
So I gotta say, man, I really just was like going through and rereading your entire story. Man, listen, we can all get excited about what's happening with you being in Money in the Bank next week at O2 and in England and how cool it is to be in London and how awesome this opportunity is. But the part that just blows me away, dude, this has been a work in progress for so long with so many ups and downs, dude. Like really getting after this for a full 20 years as a professional. How are you able to like take in this step that you're at right now? Does it just feel like another step in the ever sort of growing journey of LA Knight?
Man, that's a conversation I have at home way too often, is that I don't really take the time a lot of times to kind of appreciate, I guess, where I've gotten to and where I'm going, just because I am so used to getting told no. I'm so used to being kind of shut out that I don't really sell these things too much. I don't really get too overly hyped about them. Like I might get a little excited on the inside, but you'll never see it. And I'm just kind of whatever story you've seen, read, heard, guarantee it's only the surface.
It was. You mean it was worse? It was hard. The failures, the bad times were worse than can even show up on a Wikipedia page.
Dude, there's been a lot. I've spent plenty of nights sleeping in a car. I've spent times where I didn't have a car, eviction notices, all that stuff, all in the name of trying to get to where I am now. And even where I am now, I'm not satisfied, and I still need to continue moving forward. So there's a lot of pressure that I put on myself, and we don't need to go into Freud's couch or anything to dig into that, but. There's just there's a hell of a lot of pressure. There's not a lot of time to celebrate, maybe. I mean, I try to have my fun when I can, but at the same time, there's never a time where I'm really relaxed and just like, I can sit back now.
Right. Well, and here's I totally get that. And we've talked about that recently in talking about like, it's sort of being time to push the button on you, so to speak, because obviously the crowd is feeling it and has been feeling it. And as we just talked about, I mean, listen, you're just a couple years younger than me. Like it's time to get after this thing. And you've had a long road getting there. The part that really blew me away, dude, that I was like, how did he? And I'd certainly appreciate and understand the long road and setbacks. I've been there myself. I've had my share of brutal firings and thinking it was over and not hearing back from anyone. But when you made it to WWE the first time and then got clipped, and then just went right back to the indie scene, worked your way to TNA. Was there any slowdown in you at all that was just like, hey, maybe this part of my dream of ending up at WWE is just not going to happen?
At that point, it just kind of went into, there was no slowdown in the sense of like, I was never going to do anything different. At that point, it was just like, all right, well, I'm going to find a way to make money in this business. And we'll go from there. But the other thing was when I got cut the first time, it was made very clear to me that it was not a talent issue, The issue was that there was a perception issue about me and the way that I carried myself and things of that nature. So apparently I had a little bit of heat. I had left with heat, and it was said to me that, in order for that stigma to go away, you have to go away for a while. So we can maybe bring you back in 6 months, 9 months, a year. These are exact words that were told to me while I was being released. So I always knew that there was a possibility for me. And I found that out only almost exactly a year later, that there was the possibility for me to come back, because that's when I started having talks with them again. But at the time, for the immediate money, there was more money available for me where I was.
And of course, that 6 months, a year turned into much longer, and you got to go to TNA and do some really cool stuff. How beneficial was that? We don't spend a lot of time talking TNA on this show, but it does occupy a really interesting and important space in the business for people who are either on their way down, just want to stay there and have a schedule that's set. What was the role that TNA and Impact played in your life?
Well, I mean, it was pretty big because, you consider here, at that point, the biggest exposure I'd had was, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood or something. Or maybe, I think I was on like the 200th episode of NXT as a lumberjack, nameless, whatever. So at that point, it's like, all right, well, now I've at least got some level of a platform to be on. I'm making money. I don't have to work some other job while I'm doing this. So I'm able to live, do what I want to do. And at the same time, for me, my thought was always, first of all, my thought was nobody's watching the show, because that was the damn truth. But on top of that, in my head, I'm just thinking to myself, all right, maybe there's a chance. Maybe there's a slight chance that somebody at WWE might be watching this. And so in my head, it was always, I'm going to work like I'm in WWE, or at least to the best of my ability, or I'm going to work at least like they're watching me. So there was never a time for me to slack off, back off, take it easy, none of that stuff. Because for me, it was like, I'm going to do my damnedest to stand out amongst everybody and keep doing what I know I have to give to this industry. So problem is, I've probably given too much to this industry at this point.
So what was that transition like back when you went back to WWE? Was there any talk of the heat that you had, or was it like all water under the bridge?
No, because at that point, there was a little bit of a discussion on the way in, but it kind of got squashed quickly, just because I think that we kind of met at the same level. But when I came in, I kind of made extra sure to just be like, hey, look, whatever we had in the past, like, and how can we get past that, I guess, basically is what I'm saying. But it was made very clear to me that wasn't even an issue. Like, it was just like, look, that was the past. This is now. Let's do what we're doing now. And there hasn't really been anything to report on since.
So then things obviously go really well at NXT, and the buzz is created. You have big moments there, and relatively quickly compared to others, get up to TV. Well, everything's TV now, but you get the idea. And then you end up as Max Dupri, and yet again, you've now had all these ups and downs. You've built the LA Knight character. It's clearly a thing that at least NXT fans were into. And now you find out you're going to be doing this model bit. Did you look at this as a possible setback, or what the hell? Or were you just excited to be at the big time and try to make it work?
Well, there's a little of both. I mean, let's be honest. When you get pulled up to the main roster, there's a nice little pay bump. Can't say I don't appreciate that.
Damn right.
At the same time, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of frustration in just knowing, like, man, I was red hot to at the end of that NXT run. So, people were just like the crowd is now. People were on top of my stuff. They were saying my stuff, doing everything, whatever. So I'm like, okay, if I can take this up to the main roster, we got something good to go. And then there was that, and I'm just like, this feels like a step backwards. I was like, but I'll make it work. And that's kind of just the name of the game in this. But I'll say that was definitely not for me in my mind. I don't think that was made for me. I could think of a couple other options that would have been way better, but that's not my call.
So I don't want to get away from this too quickly though, because I think I cheated a little bit. I did read an article where you had said that the Max Dupri character wasn't really your cup of tea. But in transitioning back to the LA Knight character, was there anything from that time at Max Dupri that you sort of pulled from and used to help evolve the LA Knight character and get it to go to the next level?
I'd love to say yes. No.
That was a perfect answer. That was a perfect answer. You'd love to say it. Yeah. There has been obviously these days has been a ton of positive energy and buzz around you and real excitement, starting specifically with live crowds. We started getting emails from people saying,
"Hold on, I gotta cut you off right there." Now I gotta
Go ahead.
commend you on your change of position, because I think somebody just sent me a video a couple days ago where you were like, he's reportedly over. I said reportedly.
Well, I haven't.
I said, what's reportedly? Can you either watch the show or you don't? So either he is or he isn't. What do you mean reportedly? But go on.
Hold on, LA Knight. Let me respond to that. I appreciate that.
Please, go ahead.
Anything I say when a guest isn't here, I always am responsible for. Listen, I said the same thing about Dom's booze because I just haven't been in the building in a long time with all these damn international PLEs. So I just haven't been in a building in a while. So that's what I mean by reportedly. And I said the same thing. I was like, are Dom's booze getting piped in? And then people said, no, I've never heard booze like this. So yes, the word on the street is, and it does appear that way on television.
Word on the
street is LA Knight's over like Rover. And with that also has come the conversation. We've had some of it here about the comparisons to the greats who came before you, Stone Cold and The Rock. There was a little back and forth that happened recently with that, and you being whether or not you're a quote kind of derivative character who's gained things from other people. Obviously, I'm a hip hop head, so sampling is sort of part of the game to me in terms of developing character and art. I don't really exist without Funkmaster Flex and Howard Stern. How do you respond to that? Are you offended by the idea of it? Are you simply influenced by others? What do you say to people who say that?
No. Look, if you want to make that comparison, cool. My aim is to be bigger and better than either of them. I think I bring a very different package to the table than they do. At the same time, are there little glimmers of similarity? Sure, there are. I mean, I guess you could go ahead and say there's Kobe to Jordan. There's those kind of comparisons and stuff like that. So if you want to make me the Kobe to their Jordan, sure, why not? I'll take it.
Now, if someone was to do that, who really was your Jordan? Was it Stone Cold or The Rock, or was it someone else? I've talked to you before. I know you're pretty old school with your, even pre-Attitude Era interest as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a four-way tie in that whole thing. Okay. I mean, Hogan started it all for me, and even Hollywood and the NWO, it's good stuff. Yeah. So I mean, him, Flair, Austin, Rock. I could not pick a top.
But that is your Mount Rushmore. It's Hogan, Flair, Austin, Rock.
Yep. With honorable mention to like Jake, Undertaker, those guys, but definitely those are the four.
You've gotten to have moments already throughout your career with some legends, man. You've done stuff with Ted DiBiase. At TNA, you had a match with Tommy Dreamer. You've had run-ins with this one and that one. Has there been what was the most like childlike moment for you where you were kind of like pinching yourself, like can't believe I'm sharing a ring with blank?
It's got to be the $1 Million Championship. I mean, I when I was a kid, I had the $1 Million figure with the belt. I was probably 7 years old at the time when I had the thing. So to have, and it was not a replica, the actual, like the real deal. They had like security around this big case that you'd open up, and here's the one of one, the only belt. Now, occasionally we'd pull out if we were going to do something a little more dangerous or something a little more reckless, then maybe we'd have a replica. But otherwise, 9 times out of 10, it was the official, only one ever made with the diamonds in the back. Real deal. So, I mean, something like that, man, I'm taking pictures and videos and all that stuff. So, yeah, that was cool.
And yet, how did your relationship end with Ted DiBiase?
Hey, man, got to do what I got to do.
Were you? Go ahead, SUG.
I want to jump in and talk to you about some of those catchphrases. Like, how did some of that stuff come about? Like the yeah and the let me talk to you and all of that. Because I feel like you said, the crowd is responding to that stuff because we feel that like you put out an energy and people match it every time.
Let me talk to you. Kind of happened out of an accident. It was in 2010. I was tagging with Brian Cage at the time, and we were out in California. And the interviewer, we do this show called Mach 1 Wrestling, and it was always these Friday night shows. And afterwards, they'd have like little interview sessions and stuff that they put online. And in that, I felt like the interviewer was just interviewing Brian way too long. And so finally, when they brought the mic over to me, I said, "Let me talk to you." And I was just like, "Oh man, that might be a good start." And so I just started using it, and eventually, it's just kind of become a thing. Yeah, kind of happened. Yeah, it was something I just started using walking around the performance center the first time around that I was there. Um, I don't remember the exact origin, but I think I'm pretty sure what happened was like one of the coaches there would like be telling us something, and I would always just kind of like be like, you know how some people go, I would just be like, yeah, yeah, and he'd kind of push back on me, and he's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, as though I was like being a smartass or something. And so then I started leaning into it, and so then when he'd start saying stuff, I go, yeah, yeah, like duh, yeah. And so it just became a thing. And so people would always quote me at the performance center back then for whatever reason. Don't know why. Randomly, I would just go, everybody. And now people started saying it back to me. And so when they'd start saying it back to me as we're walking through the performance center, I didn't want to say it back to them. So I'd go, yeah. And so fast forward now to TNA. I'm doing Fact of Life as the little talk show I had, and we had the dummy button. And they put me in the studio, and they were like, just say dummy in different ways. And so I was like, dummy, dummy, dummy. And then one time I just went, dummy, yeah, just because. And they were like, that's the
It's a
one.
reflex at that point.
I said, okay, cool. And eventually I just kind of got away from the dummy part, kept the yeah, and here we are.
Wow, it's crazy how much like people do get so many complicated things. You worry about what they're wearing, elaborate gimmicks, and it's just a few words that really is. It's like that connect so much. It's wild. Who would guess?
The main thing is, in my opinion anyway, is not trying to crowbar something. Try and crowbar something, it's not going to be natural, it's not going to be real, it's not going to work. And all this stuff has just been kind of either stuff that I've said in real life that's just kind of blended through, or something that just kind of happened, that I was just been like, oh, okay, yeah, that was cool, let's keep that, as opposed to like, oh, well, let me think of this line and plug that.
Is that why you think the LA Knight character resonates with the fans so much? Is because like we feel that we're getting something real? Like people show up for the illusion of wrestling, but hoping that they get some glimpses of reality. And do you think that that's what people are connecting with? That little bits of reality that you give us?
Maybe there's a little bit of that, but I think there's also a little bit, you guys mentioned it, maybe a little bit of a throwback factor. I think that I think a guy like me's been missing for a long time, personally. A guy who's just going to talk a lot of trash and then go out and do it. And also probably just my psychopathic ability to believe everything I'm saying. That probably also adds to it. I'm not out there reciting lines. I'm not memorizing stuff. I'm just going out there and I'm doing my thing. So when I can just flow and react, and if something happens over here, I can talk about that. Okay. Then there's a more authentic vibe.
So perfect. The perfect scenario plays out how? Like, I mean, you now have been living this dream, man. I have to imagine there were many a nights when you were laying in bed picturing how this whole thing would play out. And here you are now, a whole grown ass man who's standing in the position to make all of these dreams happen. How does the LA Knight story play out?
Man, it's been such a damn stock chart in a sense where, a stock never moves straight up or straight down. It's always this, no matter which way it's going. You mentioned laying in bed and kind of visualizing this stuff. I've never been very good at that. I've always been kind of a one step at a time kind of person. Hey, I want to do this tomorrow. I'd like to eventually get to this, but I can't really see it. And I can't really see how to get there. So it's just kind of, I'll cross the bridge when I get there. So there's a lot of that. The optimum scenario, man, that's the crazy thing. You talk about, go back to NXT and you talk about the $1 million championship or something like that. It's like, I didn't even know that was an option. So, like, to talk about optimum scenarios, I'm not even sure that I can say it because sometimes some of the optimum scenarios haven't even presented themselves yet. So I don't really know. Now, what would I like to be? I want to be the guy who's at the top of this deal. I want to be the guy who is running around with that Universal Championship, the World Heavyweight Championship, whatever it is, to the point where people are like, all right, that's the guy. All right, that's the guy who also now we're going to consider, is he one of the best of all time? I don't know. And maybe that's ambitious. And people look at me and be like, oh, this guy's out of his mind. He thinks he's got that good. Yeah, I do. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this. So everybody might not agree with that, and that's cool. That's fine. I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea. But at some point, you're going to have to drink up. And here's the deal. At the end of this, my whole aim is when they talk about Austin, Rock, Hogan, Flair, Cena, Undertaker, I want my name to be out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It's a hell of a goal to have, and it certainly a big step could be taken next Saturday in London, England. Dude, thanks for making some time for us. I wanted to get, we hope to have you on down the road, but in this moment, because it really feels like you're sort of in the throes of the moment, and obviously a lot of people are putting their money on you to get that briefcase. I was like, we got to get a conversation right now. So thanks for making some time for us.
Yeah, I got to remember what time zone I'm in next time. But what part of Maryland are you in?
I'm in Chevy Chase, Maryland, as we speak.
Oh, okay, I know Chevy Chase. That's like close to D.C., right?
That's right. You're from Hagerstown.
That's out in the sticks. You ain't ever been out there.
No, yeah, Hagerstown. what county's Hagerstown again?
Washington.
It's SUG, Washington County. In
Montgomery
County, we don't even know.
I haven't heard of Hagerstown.
In Montgomery County, we don't even know Washington County.
We don't even know that exists out there.
Listen, I'm not from Maryland, so I wasn't supposed to know. Pete was supposed to know all of this.
When did you leave Maryland?
2003. That's when I moved to Ohio and started wrestling.
So you didn't do MCW? You didn't do MCW at all?
No. The crazy thing is, I don't think I've ever wrestled in Maryland that I can think of. Probably almost never, which is crazy because everything started in the Midwest, and then I made my way out to LA, and I was out there for 10 years. So,
and there hasn't been a TV in Baltimore yet.
Not for SmackDown anyway. I think Raw is either going there soon or they were just there recently. I can't. But I remember I was just like, man, I want to go there because the Baltimore Arena, which I think they maybe retooled it, renamed.
They renamed it. They renamed it and retooled it a bit. Yeah.
That is the arena that I've seen the most shows growing up. Was at the Baltimore Arena. I mean, a little bit at what's it called, Capital One Center now.
Yeah.
U.S. Air Arena probably doesn't even exist anymore. Landover, Maryland.
No. That was the Capital Center, and then U.S. Air Arena. That was when I first went. I mean, I saw
Park Arena. I did one or two, but Baltimore Arena was the one. I saw Raws, I saw Super Bras, I saw a bunch of stuff in Baltimore Arena.
Yeah, Baltimore Arena is so cool too because it got all the WCW Crockett stuff and it got WWF.
Because it's right there at that border. Like people from Atlanta came up, people from Connecticut came down.
Oh yeah, it's maybe Baltimore, DC, Baltimore, maybe the ultimate market that caught both completely. It was all wrapped up.
Underratedly so too, because WWE started out of DC, like it's associated with New York, but.
I'm looking to come home and hit those familiar spots. Actually, I tell you what, this year DC was one of the first crowds to give me that big major pop for the first time. Actually,
really,
March, and I was surprised. It was the first one that caught me off guard. Where I was like, "Do they know I'm from around here? Is that why?" But then the next week we went to Pittsburgh, and the next week we went to New York, and it just continued from there. And I was like,
"You said, oh, it's just happening."
Yeah. And who knows? Maybe you could show up in Baltimore on the road with that briefcase, just to remind me.
That's exactly right.
What time it is, man?
Dude, congrats on all this. Seriously, it's an inspirational story. I loved hearing it, and everyone's rooting for you, dude. So good luck.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, man.
I appreciate you guys.
All right, there he is, L.A. Knight. SUG. That's how you do it on a Friday.
That is how you do it on a Friday. That's the way to kick off a weekend right there.
That's exactly how you kick off a weekend.
Happy weekend, boys.
Yeah, that's right. And with that, we're going to the weekend, everyone. Stay mage, and we'll catch you on Tuesday.